All right, good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started. I probably don't even need this mic, but just because of the volume of this room, and maybe my voice will get lost, I'm going to go ahead and use it. So thank you all for taking the time to come over after dropping your kids off. It's the first day. This is exciting. How many, just so I kind of get to know the audience, how many of you, is this your first child in Arcadia schools? All right, great. Well, that's the exact reason why I started having this meeting. And the purpose is that I have two goals for it. The first one is that I share a little bit with you about our district, our school district, because a lot of people know a lot about the schools that their children are going to go to. They've done a lot of research, they know a lot about it, but don't always understand the greater organization, how that school fits into Arcadia Unified School District, and what does it mean to be a unified school district. What does the leadership look like, the elected officials, how's that different from the city? So just a little bit about that. That's the first goal. The second goal is that Arcadia has a reputation for excellence, and they've earned that over many, many years. I would love to tell you that it was because of my leadership, but I can tell you I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, people that came before me that have done amazing things in education and have built this district to what it is today. Because of that, we have an obligation, me as a superintendent, you as parents, to carry that torch on. One of the interesting things about my job is I live on two tracks every day. I'm dealing with today, what's going on right now with your children, our teachers' education, but I'm also tasked with looking out 5 to 10 years and ensuring that our school district continues to be highly successful and viable for all of our kids. If your kids are starting, especially in kindergarten or TK, we have to know what's going on when they're in high school now, right? We have to be looking down and making sure that education is relevant. So that's where you come in, because if you don't understand how important it is to get involved in our schools, both financially and with your time, and the time is actually the most important one, then we're not going to succeed in having a viable, successful district 10 years out. Because the problem with education is that we get amazing parents in the pipeline. They join, they become room moms and room dads in kindergarten or TK now. They come through, they start to learn the system, they get connected, they know the principals, the teachers, and then we pass them on to middle school and they become leaders, and then high school, and then something really bad happens. Kids graduate. Now that's good for the kids, but we lose our parents after we've trained them and they've trained us for 12 years to be great partners in education. Now sometimes they stick around and they become school board members. So I happen to have a group of them back here, and I just want you to know that they know and I know that this isn't a big meeting. This is a very intimate meeting. There's just a few of you, there's me, but this truly is one of the most important meetings I will have this week, because you as parents of new children to the school district are our future. You're going to be around for many, many years, and if you don't understand how vitally important it is to be involved, we need you, we're not going to be successful, as I said. So let me just take a moment to introduce to you our school board members, and that's the first thing I want to make sure that you understand, that a lot of people confuse the city of Arcadia from the school district. Now, we are great partners, and our kids, and you benefit from that, but they're two separate divisions. They both have elected officials, and so our elected officials, my 5 bosses, I should say, they are elected and represent and collectively lead our district. They set policy, and they hire the superintendent and work with me. So let me really quick, if I can have you stand and you guys can put a face to a name of your elected officials on our school board. So let me start at the end. We have Ms. Lori Filippi. Good morning, Lori. We have our current school board president, Mr. Fenton Eam. School board member, Ms. Kay Kinsler. And our newest elected board official, Ms. Lee Chavez. And I hope you recognize just their presence today. It just demonstrates how important our new parents and our new families are to Arcadia. So one of the things that you should know right away is that in Arcadia, I think we have a motto that says we are a community of homes. And the reason for that is, we don't have a lot of industry in Arcadia. And I've yet to meet a family that has moved into Arcadia, bought a house, and then said, hey, what school district is here? It doesn't happen, right? We understand that you guys, as parents, have sacrificed either to stay in Arcadia or to move into Arcadia, and that's no easy task. And most of our parents do it because they're pursuing. In fact, our school board president, Fentney, was just sharing yesterday that when his family came from New York, they wanted safety, they wanted a city that they felt safe in, and they wanted good schools. And so they looked at houses in the districts that matched that, and they ended up in Arcadia. So we're very proud of that. But because of that, obviously our focus is on families, because that's why we're here. So I wanted to introduce you to Max and Rose, and I just left Camino Grove and dropped Max and Rose off in TK. So they're starting school, so I'm wearing a hat as superintendent, and I'm also wearing the hat as a dad, just like you. Today was the first day, and I only leaked a little bit, so dropping them off. Funny thing is, they ran in the room, right? It's harder on the parents than it is the kids sometimes. So very excited. My wife also is a instructional coach, technology coach in the district, taught elementary and middle as well. We're about building trusted relationships. We believe we are parenting together. If your child is in our school district, which we expect they will be here until high school, until graduation, which means we're going to be together through all the ups and downs of raising kids. And I always tell, when I was a high school principal, I would tell people, it's not if there's going to be a problem. It's when it happens, how do we work together? How do we communicate? How do we partner? Because it is challenging raising kids, if you know. I definitely know that there's no easy task. In fact, I'm going to talk about PTA, but I always joined PTA when I was a parent because I looked at it as therapy. That was my time to talk to other parents and find out, wow, I thought I was the only one having these problems. So it truly is a journey together, and in that, there will be times where challenges will happen for your kid. Might be a teacher that's not an exact personality fit, or something that's happening with other kids and friends. And the real task of a school district and parents is to have that partnership and that trust, and knowing that sometimes we may have even different opinions, but we always start with, we all want that child to succeed. And we all come from a different side of that, and we all have a role in that. And we have to talk, we have to communicate, and at the end of the day, know that we're doing what's best for that child. We're whole child, student-focused and whole child. What that means is we definitely recognize how important rigorous education is, and preparing our children for this future where they're competing against kids from all over the world. And we recognize that we want our children to be able to adapt and thrive in any setting, no matter where they end up in the world in their adult life, which means they need to be able to collaborate, communicate, to empathize, to recognize different cultures and be sympathetic to it. All of those things that just make us successful people. And by the way, all the research is coming out saying that's what the new industry is looking for. They obviously want smart kids, but they want kids that can, young adults that can work on teams. And so we spend a lot of time up in Silicon Valley talking to a lot of the startups and the companies that I believe your children will be working with and for, or starting their own companies very soon. An innovative growth mindset, that is just a core belief that there is no limit, there's no cap on how much a child can learn or grow. And I shouldn't say a child, because that's a life mentality for adults as well. We expect that from our teachers as well, that whatever you did last year, you should be able to grow that this year. It's not just doing the same thing every year. And we believe a child that has test scores and grades at a certain level this year always has the capacity to increase that the following year. Kids have ebb and flow. Things all of a sudden turn on in a child where in a math class, a parent might say, my child's just not that good at math. And all of a sudden, after the 8th grade, the child gets turned on to math, and they can become that A+ student and really end up in a career with math. So that concept that we don't put limits on kids and we don't put caps based on test scores or current performance. We always expect the very best and hope to pull that out of them. And we have a collaborative culture. And this is one of the huge benefits of being in a unified school district. So by saying that, some school districts are just elementary, some school districts are high school. Arcadia is unified, so we have TK all the way to graduation, it's to 12th grade. And the benefit of that is that all of our teachers and staff, when we develop programs and we develop curriculum, it's all done through an articulation. So we're always looking at the vertical articulation so that when your child changes schools and goes from 5th grade to 6th grade, it should be no different than changing grades within an elementary or within a middle school, because all of our teachers are working together. Our high school math teachers are adopting curriculum alongside with the middle school teachers and middle alongside with elementary. So it's very important in our district. So your child is getting this seamless pipeline of education all the way through 12th grade. So we're very proud of that, and we continue to work on that. So we did an extensive work last year in developing core values for our district. And by extensive work, I don't mean a couple people sitting in a room. We sent out a couple of, we don't call them surveys, they're engagements with the community. And we also had a lot of meetings with staff to just sit down in one-on-one interviews, group meetings to talk about what are the values that make Arcadia unique and special and things that we want to hold dear and continue to work on. So collaborate is one of them. We know that education is no longer a single teacher in a classroom with the door shut working with their kids. It's too difficult to do alone, and we expect all of our professionals to collaborate, as well as myself collaborating with other superintendents, CEOs, not just from education, but from all business sectors. We expect all of our students and staff to think critically, and we just know that this is such a highly valued trait right now in our world, and especially in enterprises, being able to problem solve. It's one thing to be able to be smart on a test, but can you apply it? Can you solve problems? And can you do it working in a team, collaborating with other people? Be creative. We're going to see you're going to see so much more strategies that's being used in the classroom with your child than you probably saw when you were in school or when I was in school. It's much more interactive and a lot of inquiry, where children aren't just told this is what we're going to do and go do it, but given that opportunity to kind of struggle. I call it a healthy struggle, where you have to figure it out. You're not just given the prompt up front, but you have to start to be creative, think critically, and then move along that path of getting the information on how to solve a problem. And what it does is it builds agency, and that's an important term for us. It's empowering students to know they have control over their education. It was one of the driving reasons that we put a Chromebook in the hand of every child over the last 3 years. In our secondary schools, the kids get them and they take them home. In the elementaries, they're still in school, but every child has one. The driving force behind that was not just because it's neat to have a Chromebook and to get on the internet, but we want children to own their learning. We want them to know that they have access to learning. The teacher is very important and has a lot of content, but they also have the ability to access learning from the internet. So. And then the last one, offer empathy. This is important because so many things that are going on in the world right now boil down to the fact that we as humans, nothing more than that, have to understand that if you can't empathize and understand the person standing on the other side from you, where they're coming from, be able to walk in their shoes, recognize cultural differences, recognize different levels of performance, different levels of knowledge, all of the things that come into working with people on just a very human level and collaborating, communicating with people. It doesn't matter how smart you are, you will not be successful moving forward. So this ability to demonstrate empathy is really becoming clear in our use of restorative practices. And I don't know if you've heard much about that. There's been some districts that have done some things with it, and they did it poorly. And so I always have to be clear with parents and explain why and how we're doing it. Restorative practices, by nature, the word restorative means that you have to have something first in order to restore, right? So what we mean by that is that we emphasize building community. So when your child enters a classroom, it's not a one-way education between your child and the teacher, and then there's 30 of those going on. They are part of the community in that classroom. And it's about responsibility and accountability between the student and the teacher, but it's also about lateral accountability between students, so that you begin as a student to recognize that you have a role in helping your neighbor be successful, to celebrate with them, and they mutually have that responsibility to you. Every year I always go up to music camp. Have you guys heard of our music camp in Arcadia? We have, it's been going on for many years. And it's one of the reasons we have one of the best music programs in the country and one of the largest and most successful marching bands in the country. And everyone just thinks we have great kids that are just musically inclined and it just happens. But it starts, before school even starts, with music camp. And here's what I always see at music camp. I'm walking around, it's up in Idlewild, up at a camp in Idlewild. And you walk around and you see seniors under a tree working with a freshman. Maybe it's they're on the trumpet. There's no adults around, there's no teachers. It's just a senior that's taking a leadership role, heard a freshman not playing the note right, and they kind of pull him aside and say, hey, come here. And they go under a tree, under the shade, and they work on the note until the kid gets it right, and then they rejoin the group. Now, why does that happen in music? And it's real simple. It's because that senior recognizes that we're never going to be as good as we can be if that kid doesn't get that note right. So they have this kind of responsibility to the group that music requires every note, every instrument to be on in order for the band to be successful. And every year I think, isn't that how our classrooms should look? You know, can you imagine if that kind of level of responsibility in the classroom, in multi-levels, seniors with freshmen, wow. So that's the vision, and we're going to get there. We're not there yet, but that's been my vision for 12 years I've been in this district and going up to music camp, and every year I just say, they have this right, they figured this out, and there's no reason that our classes can't look like that. The last one is learning from failure. This is a hard one for educators, and I'll be honest with you, and maybe some of you are engineers or in these fields where, failure is just part of what you do. You keep doing things and iterate until you get it right. But in the field of education, we've been taught, and most of us were good students and we stay in education, that you only answer when you have the right answer, right? You don't raise your hand because you may have the wrong answer and the teacher's going to be mad at you and the kids. And wow, times have changed. And we now recognize that all of the great entrepreneurs, our amazing CEOs of companies that are driving the commerce in the United States and the world now are successful because they've recognized that failure is a good thing. When you get back up and you stay at it, so that resiliency and that persistence. All the great inventors, you see those quotes where, it wasn't the 999 failures that invented the light bulb. It was that 1,000th time that they did it, and bang, there we go, and now we have it. So we really want to change the culture in education to teach kids that, you give your best and you get all the information that you can possibly garner. And then there's a healthy thing about just taking guesses and trying to problem solve and work through a problem and getting to the right answer eventually. But the failure in between those steps, as long as you stay at it, is very healthy and a trait that they're going to need to be successful in their careers in the future. And we try to practice that as adults as well. We recognize that some programs that we start may not be perfect right away, but we got to stay on it. We have to monitor it and continue to improve. So that's a big focus for us in education in general and in Arcadia. So those values are helping us to lead to this very powerful statement. It's succinct, but to me it's very powerful. To challenge and inspire students to make a positive and profound impact on their world. And I want to tell 2 quick stories to follow that up, because some people hear that and go, wow, you expect that from every child, a profound impact on their world? And the answer is yes. And let me give you 2 examples that, for me, that kind of demonstrate it. We had a junior a couple years ago that went to China for the summer to take care of their grandparents, their aging grandparents. He, while he was there over the summer, got really frustrated with the amount of medications every day and the amount of time he had to spend sorting out his grandparents' medication. If anyone's been in that situation where, it's very frustrating. There's this pill that has to be every 4 hours, this pill that's at once a day and 3 times a day. So he came back and he was sharing this frustration and started to work on an app. He created and coded and developed his own app on the iPhone that could dispense medication wirelessly over the internet, and he could do it from here to China. So as long as the pills were loaded in, he built the contraption that would dispense them, and every day he could go on and dispense the right pills to his grandparents. Phenomenal, right? Think if that gets marketed and the prototypes and all that, that's profound impact on the world, not just his grandparents, but the world. There was also a day where we were over at Methodist Hospital visiting a colleague that was in the hospital here in Arcadia, and we hear some music being played from one of the rooms, and we stop, we kind of poke our head in to see what's going on. And we didn't even know about it. 2 of our students, 2 girls that are in our orchestra, were volunteering their time after school to go over to the hospital, and they would walk the halls and ask family members of the patients that were out in the halls or in the room, is there a special song that that patient has that we can come in and play and maybe bring a smile to their day and just, lift them up a little bit? And sure enough, you can imagine there's a lot of takers, and a lady there that the mom said for the first time in days that she had smiled. That's profound. That's these kids' community right here in Arcadia making an enormous difference in their lives. That's our goal. I think as a parent, that's my goal for my child, that what they learn becomes relevant, they apply it, and they make their world a better place. That's our goal as well as a school district. And together, we are doing that, and we're going to continue to do that. So we have a tradition of excellence that I mentioned. I just want to run down some key things that I believe is what makes that difference. First of all, I introduced our Board of Education. They are extremely supportive. They are present, meaning you will see them. They are in our schools. They know our teachers. They know the administration. And they provide the guidance representing you as parents to ensure that we are always being the best that we can be. And they're visionary, meaning that we're excellent today, but that tradition of excellence isn't about doing the same thing year after year. The tradition is being innovative and continuing to grow and ensure that we're changing with the world. We believe in innovative practices, and I mentioned Silicon Valley. You're going to be hearing more about this as we move forward through the year, but we are really focused on personalized learning right now. We're not proud of the fact that education in general hasn't changed much. A lot of the classrooms up until a few years ago looked very much like they did when I was in school. You walk in a classroom and you have rows and it's divided up by classes. The furniture looks pretty much the same. Some of the pedagogy, some of the practices have changed, but not a whole lot. And we also recognize that it was created perfectly for the industrial age, right? The Industrial Revolution. Rows were like the assembly line, the whistle, and the factory was the bell that started the day. Don't think, don't question, just raise your hand when you know the right answer. We're trying to move away from that. I shouldn't say try, we are moving away from that and recognize it. It's hard because there's so many traditions in those things and so many parents feel comfort, even myself, that, well, it doesn't look the same way it did when I was in school. So now, I'm fearful of it and I'm anxious because how do I help my kid with homework when it doesn't look the same as when I was in school? So there's a lot of issues we're working through, but as a public education, we have to move forward with the times. We have to start giving our kids the skills they need now and in their future, not what was good for us. So it's a difficult transition, but we're tackling it and we're we're doing it with parents and partnering and ensuring that we're all moving along together. Home-school partnership. I mentioned a little bit about the future is in your hands, and I do mean that because you have to help us carry on this tradition of volunteering in our schools. I'll give you one example. I tweeted out the first day of school at Arcadia High School here on this campus, 5 minutes after the bell rang. So we have almost 4,000 people on this campus. 5 minutes after the bell rang, no one in sight. There was not a teacher, a child walking around on campus. Everyone was exactly where they belonged, in a classroom, and learning and relationship building was happening minute one. That is very unique in the field of education. There's a lot of school districts that are still putting the master schedule together day one. Kids just go to classes, they wait to get their schedule. It might be complete, it might not. There's a long line at the counseling door. That doesn't happen here because we have Apache days where our parents, an army of parents, run the entire thing. So that's where our kids come in with their parents, they register, they sign up for PTA, they get their schedule, they get their books, they get everything they need, their ID, and on day one, they're ready to go. And we can only do that because of our parents' support. And if that was up to our staff, then they wouldn't be able to do what they're doing, getting ready for school, and there would be 2 weeks of just kind of getting books delivered and all those things. We don't do that here. Day one, we're starting with teaching and learning, and we value that time together. So that's just an example at the high school, but you take that all throughout the district. The music camp that I mentioned, again, run completely by parents. Every chaperone, every cabin that has adults sleeping in it is a parent. All of those things are done so that the teachers can focus on teaching the kids. So this partnership with parents is just unique and vital to who we are. So there's a few that I want to talk about, and there's going to be many, many more. But first of all, we have the Parent-Teacher Association. That's the PTA that most people are familiar with. This is a national organization, so there's a national PTA, and then regional, and then down to districts, and then down to schools. And when you participate in PTA and pay the PTA fee, and it's a small fee to be in that, you become a member. Some of that money actually goes to the parent organization that is advocating for our kids at the state and national level. Very important because they are our voice on the state level. But the majority of that money stays here and it goes to the site to give back to the students at your school. And I encourage you to be an active participant, not just pay and get your card, but to actually show up and be a part of the school. You'll be in the end. You'll know what's going on. You'll get to talk to other parents. So I encourage you to do that. So that's just non-negotiable. You should just join that and make the meetings when you can. The next one is AEF. That's our Arcadia Education Foundation. And this group is set up strictly to enhance the education program for Arcadia schools. I'm going to talk in just a few minutes about funding. But just to start this conversation off, we are not funded at the level of most of the public schools around us. And public schools in California are not in direct correlation to property value. And that's a big misunderstanding. In fact, it's the opposite. Because we have what's considered a wealthy community with high home values, we get less money than the districts around us. Because the governor and the legislatures believe that we have the ability to ask our parents for money, where a poor community doesn't have that. So that's a misconception, because a lot of people believe high property values, wow, I pay a lot of taxes on my house. It does not go directly to us. It goes to Sacramento. They decide how it's going to get split up, and then it comes back to us. So because of that, public schools over the years become somewhat feeling like private schools, where not quite as bad, but there's times where we're asking you for money, and I want you to know why. It's not that we're just being greedy, but we cannot provide an excellent education at this level with the money we get from the state. We need that enhanced. So our Arcadia Education Foundation exists only for that. It's just made up of parents like you that have said, I want to give back. I want to make sure that we're raising money for the schools. Unlike the PTA, which is at the local level and you're participating with your school, AEF is raising money for every school. for the district, but really focused at programs that enhance the education for every child. So they give like teacher mini grants, so like a teacher can apply and say, I'm doing this really neat science project, it'd be nice to have these extra resources, things like that. They run our summer school, and we have over 2,000 students participating in summer school. So, they do a lot of amazing things. So if you can participate in ADF or donate at the level you can, greatly appreciate it, and it is essential to who we are. And then we also have a Performing Arts Foundation, and I can't tell you how thrilled, and I hope I never get used to it, because when I came to Arcadia High School, we had a tiny little theater. In fact, it was called the Little Theater, and on my first day of being principal, they said, well, that's the tour, is there anything else you need? And I said, yeah, you didn't show me the theater. They said, yeah, I showed it to you. And I said, yeah, it's called the Little Theater, where's the big theater? And they were like, no, that's it, we just call it the Little Theater. It's like, wow, Arcadia has this amazing reputation. I knew about it coming from the Midwest. I heard about the arts and education. It didn't have their own performing arts home, and so I can't tell you how proud this community is, and I am, of the fact that we were able to build this with taxpayer money. This came out of a Measure I facilities where we overhauled every campus in our district, every classroom, every campus, and was able to build this amazing hall for our kids. So something to be proud of as a community and as a citizen. So the Performing Arts Foundation exists to bring arts to the San Gabriel Valley, not just for kids, but for adults as well. So we have amazing, well-known acts that come here. We have 4 major shows a year that we book. And like Paul Anka was our opening. Some of you older folks might know Paul Anka. But we have the support for all of our students. Obviously, this is their home stage. And once they've performed here at all levels and all grades, you can imagine going on to the next level isn't intimidating to them, because they've been on one of the best theater stages that exist. And it also becomes a classroom, because we have multiple classes of stagecraft at our high school, from theater management to lighting. You can imagine all of the different classes that can come out of this. So, and then also they bring in professionals that share our vision. So when we bring in performing acts, they also are willing to work alongside of our kids and doing some classes with them as they rehearse, and sometimes on stage with our kids during the hour. So Performing Arts Foundation you will hear a lot about, and if that's something you're interested in, please take a look at that. Come to the shows, but also support where you can. And then I just want to mention we have a ton of other parent booster groups that are very specific to your child. It might be athletic boosters at the high school if your child's involved in athletics, the music boosters. We have the music parents, like I said, that run the whole music camp. So just when you see those requests, pay attention to it, participate where you can, because we really appreciate it and need that. And I mentioned the parcel tax. No, I didn't. I mentioned the facilities bond. We also just passed a parcel tax last year that will bring in about $3.5 million a year for 18 years. And we had to pass that by a majority vote in Arcadia, and which is difficult to do because you're asking people to tax themselves for 18 years to give to the schools. So I don't take that lightly when a community agrees to do that and recognizes that that money is worth it for the future of our students and for this community. So I just put that up as a thank you, and to remind you that what we do truly is a partnership, and that you support. And so, real quick, if, like I said, you may not be familiar with all our schools. So we have 11 campuses. We have, and these numbers may be a little off as of today, but roughly 9,500 students. We have 6 elementary schools: Baldwin-Stocker, Camino Grove, Highland Oaks, Holly Avenue, Hugo Reed, and Longley Way. And most of you are represented probably in one of those. And then we have 3 middle schools: Dana Middle School, First Avenue, and Foothills Middle School. And then we have 1 big comprehensive high school, Arcadia High School, and I came in 2005 as the principal of Arcadia High School. And so I'm very familiar with the high school and still have a lot of pride in the school. although I've been away from the high school long enough now that the kids don't recognize me, and quite frankly, the principals are the rock stars. No one knows the superintendent or who they are, so I'm working on that, but very proud of our high school, and I've only worked in large comprehensive high schools in my career, and so I'm a little biased, but the resources that we have, because a lot of parents will say, oh, it's so big, and will my child get lost? And I always compare them back to their college experience or any large organization. You know, I went to a school with 25,000 kids for college, but how many kids did I actually know and interact with, or adults every day? Well, not that many. I had my routines in my niche. Maybe it was in a fraternity, or I was in the College of Education, so I knew those professors and I knew my roommates, etc. It's kind of like that on a high school. It's more about we have a club for every child. There is an administrator or a teacher on this campus that will relate and get to know in a trusting relationship with your child. Because of our size, we have the resources to be able to provide for every child in this community, and we're very proud of that. And then we have one alternative school, Rancho, and that is at our district office location on 3rd Street. So, education funding. So I kind of already said this. High property values not equal high funding. We get less money than most school districts. Actually, we're in one of the lowest funded in Los Angeles County, unfortunately. And our funding is connected to what we call our local control funding formula. And I only put that up there because you're going to be hearing, or maybe we'll be surveying and asking about things, and you'll see that term, the LCFF. And what that is it forces all school districts to connect directly your funding, every dollar, to how it's being spent, the programs. And then being accountable for those dollars to demonstrate that when you spend a dollar, that it's actually adding value to the schools and to all students, that all students are being served. So it's a very important process that we follow every year in developing and improving our plan and ensuring that our taxpayer money is being used to the best of its ability. Real quick, this is just a snapshot. If you're not familiar with the district being new, and you will very soon as your children grow and it goes way too fast. But this is just a snapshot of our graduates. And again, these numbers are always changing, but this is pretty consistent year to year. Number of students, 894 that graduated last year. You can see over a 99% graduation rate. Average GPA of 3.38. 1840 average SAT score. Going on down, you can see the amount of money that our seniors accumulated in scholarships. And that little asterisk at the bottom, we're very proud of. We for the 2 years running now, we have at least one student represented at every Ivy League school in the United States. We're very proud of that, and proud of the fact too that something that's not up there is that the list of colleges and universities that our kids attend is growing rapidly every year. And that's because of the amount of information now out there about all of the universities. It used to be very limited. Kids heard, I want to go to SC or I want to go here, and it was very minimum as far as the list. And now we have software that all of our children start on in middle school and begin to build their resume, so to speak. They take these interest inventories, and the computer starts to connect them with all of the universities and the colleges in the country that match what they're interested in, and whether they want to move far away, stay close to home, they want to live at school, not live at school, the fields they're interested in, and all of a sudden students are seeing universities they've never seen before, and therefore our graduates are going places that we've never experienced before. So that's very exciting for us. They truly are. The Arcadia graduate population is everywhere in the country, and we're very proud of it. And it's a close network. We take care of each other. I mentioned the bond, and you'll see this at all your schools, that we have safe, and that is a priority for all of us, is that our schools are a safe place for our kids. I think as parents, that's always our priority. And they're also, they're just wonderful learning environments, and we've been so fortunate to be able to renovate all of them over the last few years. And then I'll finish with this. We use social media to communicate who we are and what we do and these celebrations every day. So we've been using the hashtag First Day Arcadia this morning, so if you took some pictures, you can tweet that out. But I would encourage you, how many of you are on Twitter and Facebook? I should have asked that separately because there's going to be, all right. If you're not, I'm going to encourage you to really ask someone that you know that's using it and take advantage of it. There is so much information being distributed nowadays through Twitter and Facebook. We have an amazing website, and you need to go to it and check it out and just become familiar with it, and we post things. But you have to put energy to that. You have to go and log on and go to our our website. If you join our Facebook page and like it, every time we post anything, it feeds right to your account, and you're going to see it. So you're going to be reminded all the time of upcoming events, celebrations, anything that's going on, pictures in our district. By this afternoon, if not already, there's going to be hundreds of pictures of First Day on all our campuses, and teachers and parents. And it's just very exciting to become part of our community and know that you're part of something bigger than just your family. And that you should be pleased with that, because this Arcadia family, I told someone this morning that I came to Arcadia in 2005 just looking for a job. And I found a family, and I've stayed because this place is phenomenal. The support that your students will get from their colleagues and that you will get from other parents. There's a reason why Arcadia continues to be deemed as one of the best places to raise kids in America. When it's a safe city, it's got the parks, awesome schools. It's a great place for parents, and that's why my kids started this morning. So with that, I'll take a few questions if you have any, and I'll stick around if anyone has any particular questions that you want to ask me individually. But I appreciate you being here. You're going to see me in more formal roles, giving speeches at programs, etc. I just really like this opportunity before all this gets started to just look at you and be able to share with you a little bit about who we are and let you know that we are a family. And if there's ever anything that I can do to make your experience better in Arcadia, don't hesitate to call or email me. Okay? Thank you all so much. Appreciate you. Go ahead if you have any general questions that anyone might have. Well, like I said, I'm going to stick with yes.
So is this successful local measures to support local Arcadia schools? Will this bring higher possibilities for state and federal to reduce the funding for the schools? Because we're so successful.
Will it reduce the amount of money the state gives to us? No, and that's a really good question. That is not part of the formula of what the state gives us. So every time we raise money locally, it stays local. So all of the parcel tax money comes directly to us, unlike the property tax. So the state can't take it away, and it also doesn't change our formula. So it absolutely enhances our programs and what we're able to do by the parcel tax money. Does that answer me? Okay. So yeah, we depend on it greatly. It pays for about 30 teachers, that money. So we were going to have to lay off 30 teachers throughout the district if we didn't pass the parcel tax. It's a big deal, because small class sizes are very important to us to maintain as small class sizes we can. Anything else? Yeah.
I got a question. This is the first year for us here in Arcadia, from Mexico. And of course we have different programs in Mexico. For instance, the secondary school, our elementary school are 9 years. Here the high school is like nine. How did you do in order to make equivalence of the different international educational systems in order that, for instance, the subjects from one country like Mexico are fit well into the program that you have in Arcadia regarding the entering in the college?
Right. It's a First of all, thank you for that question because, we are receiving students internationally every day, and not just at the beginning of school. The school cycles around the world are all very different, right? So sometimes school ends, let's say in China in the spring, much earlier than ours, and all of a sudden kids are showing up to enroll for the first time, and we're at the end of the year, right? So it is an issue. We do our best. Our counselors are very familiar with international programs, and they do their best to match up the transcripts. The elementary and middle is much easier because teachers can test kids on where they are and then intervene and bring them either up or give them, more challenging work if they're not on the same level when they come in. High school is very difficult because it's governed by the state with credits and specific credits that a student has to get in a certain topic. So we do our best to use online courses, after-school courses, independent study to get kids caught up as quickly as possible. Our goal is that every child coming in graduates on time. So we've gotten pretty good at it. So it's a tough way to answer because it's very individual to every child. But I can tell you that it's what we do well. We've been doing it for years, and we share the same goal with parents is to get that child on track as quickly as possible for graduation. So, and we also work collaboratively with our community college, PCC, Pasadena Community College. They also work with us, so we have kids taking courses at the college level as well sometimes to help with that transition. So, for example, if we have a student that comes in senior year and there's no way we can get them on the right courses, we will graduate that course. PCC will take them as a college, get them caught up, and then they can transfer after 2 years to like SC or one of the state schools. So there's a lot of tools in our belt for making sure that kids are successful. But thank you, because it's ongoing. That's what we do. Yeah.
You mentioned class size getting small. Are you on the maybe like K through third being 20?
The 22 is our goal for those, and it can max at 25 is what we have, but our goal is that most of them are around 22. Kids don't come in perfect packages, so if we get a couple of new kids right at the beginning of school, one class might have 23, but our goal is 22 at TK through 3.
Didn't it used to be at 20?
It may have been, yeah.
I was a teacher when I retired, and we tried to 20 to 1, and then there was something about, well, if you didn't do such and such, you lost that grant.
Right. Yeah, all of that was dictated by fundings, how the money came to us. So there was like, you get this money, but you have to have 20 to 1, and we were given money for that. And then over the years, those things change. So we're not really regulated now. That's just our goal to try to keep it at under 22. So we're pretty successful. Yeah. And we work very collaboratively with our teachers union on our shared interests on keeping those class sizes low for kids. Yes? Say that again.
Yeah, I was told the kids must complete the high school before
19. Yes, they're not allowed to be, and that's where we work collaboratively with the college. So there's an example where it doesn't mean that if they don't finish by that age that we just boot them out and they're finished. We would work with Pasadena Community College. They would transfer over there. All of our credits would go over, and they would continue with their education and still actually be on track to go to one of our state schools. So, but that is true. Other than special ed, there is different rules for special education where students can stay longer. But for our regular ed children, that's true. Yes?
Yes, clarification. My kid is in freshman year, and in the orientation, she said that if there's a lockdown in Arcadia High School, and she finds herself, in the restroom, in the field, or outside the school, since she cannot, all doors are closed, and within school time, she has to go to First Avenue to register and,
That's correct.
Stay there in First Avenue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so, our, safety being priority, We continue to work with our local police, and we have a great partnership. And of course, they work with the FBI and on a national level of always updating and changing our processes. The reason behind that is that as soon as we go into a lockdown, every door gets locked on campus. But there's times when a kid is in between and they might get stuck in the hallway or whatever. And the goal of that is that you need to get away from harm, right? You don't stand there and continue to knock on a door when they're not going to open it. If you hear something going on over there, you run that way. And so we train all of our students and staff that you get as far away from whatever trouble is happening, but you have a place to go, and that's First Avenue. That's the nearest school to the high school. And this is for the high school folks, not the lower levels. We wouldn't expect like my TK child to walk across town to another school. But for high school, we expect them to leave and get away from the trouble if they're locked out. But then we have a place for them to register so we know where they are, and when you show up, we know where your child is. So that's correct. Yes?
So I read from the school district website that the gift program was cut because of the funding issue.
The
And that
gift?
gift program.
Oh, gifted.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's the gifted program's been gone for years. But I'll say it's been gone for years as you would know it, meaning that like when I was in school, there was a group of kids that were identified and then they stayed after school or they got pulled during the day. Our level of rigor in Arcadia and what we deliver every day in the classroom will look like what you think gifted looks like. So it will sound like lip service right now to say to you, all of our children are gifted and that's the practices we're using. You're going to find it's very true. So I'm going to tell you it, but you're going to see that those types of strategies, those higher level thinking, because really that's what it was. It was back when everything was really one-way directional and very rote memory. The kids that were able to do that got bored, got identified as gifted, and then they would go and do the fun things, right? They would get to build things and solve problems, right? I mean, I was part of that. I know that. That's what we do with every student now. And every student is involved in mastering the competencies that we need them to have. But it's also critical that every child learns to critically think and gets to be creative and do that. So really we are doing it every day. And we're meeting individual needs of kids. So if a child is excelling above some of their peers, they're going to get work that matches that. So it's just something that we kind of grew away from as education has evolved. So, yeah. All right, for the sake of everyone's time, I'm going to stop. But truly, I've scheduled myself to hang around. And so if you have any questions, feel free to come down. Thank you all so much for being a part of our family. And I look forward to working with all of you in the future. Thank you.